Does it seem like your manifestation is coming in super slow? You know what I think about that? Ain't nobody got time for that. And you're wanting to speed up the process. If you're manifesting your SP, money, career, health, car, house, friends, anything, and you feel like the process is excruciatingly slow and you want to know how to speed things up, or maybe you want to know why some aspects of your manifestations come in super fast, why others seem to take forever, then you know what? You're going to want to stay tuned. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another rousing episode of Spill the Tea Tuesday. My name is Flossie, and I consider myself not only to be a manifestation expert, but the funniest, wittiest mindset coach and your OG hype you up rampage queen here on YouTube. If you don't want to coach with me, links are going to be in the description box below. Oh, and if you want to put the pedal to the metal and literally pick up some speed manifesting your specific person, Nikki and I are having a course class here soon, the SP Accelerator course, which one of the cool things included in that is an interview with her specific person where they talk about and discuss how it felt for him being manifested by her. So if you want to check that out, links for that are going to be below. You know, before I get into anything, I'm going to do my calendar. Why? Because I always do. This says, I don't know. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. You know what? We don't care or give a fuck about the 3D reality facts. Crush that shit, as in crush the old story. Get rid of that. Why would you even want to hold on to that for a second? Cooler than a fucking snow cone? Yeah, if you manifest yourself some air conditioning, it most certainly can be. Or that can be your attitude about the 3D reality. Get to the damn pool. Facts. This says do some badass summer shit. How about you manifest some badass shit this summer? How about that? And this says, I thought I gave a fuck, but it melted. We thought we gave a fuck about the 3D, but you know what? We put it where? Straight into the trash where it belongs. Yeah, this is where I throw the remnants of my calendar. But anyhow, getting to the point of this video where, as I said in the intro, ain't nobody got time for that, as in time for their manifestations to take forever. So last week, if you recall, I made a video about using analogies and props, visualizations, in order to explain why manifestations might take a while, like, you know, the time relationship in between you getting something and someone else getting something, as well as why I'm not necessarily a big fan of the list method when manifesting something you have resistance to, and explaining why that is. You can use the list method if you want, but if it's an area you have a large amount of resistance to, you may not want to do that. And I'll link the video up here because I actually explain in detail why that is. And then I also do the oil and the water in the cup analogy that I frequently reference on videos. Nikki and I made a video a long time ago about it, but I just showed a quick updated version just real fast while I was doing the other visualization. So area number 1. If you're manifesting something and it seems to be taking forever, you really need to look at what you're affirming. Because a lot of times people either A, have what I call a thorn in their side, which if I can find the video on that, I'll link it here, or they have a holdup. So if you're manifesting like a specific person, or or you're manifesting wanting to improve your job, or if you're manifesting money, sometimes we have something that's very irritating about that topic for us. So with a specific person, a thorn could be something like you don't feel like that person gives you enough attention, or they don't text you as much as you really want. Or with money, it could just be, money feels annoying because it seems like you get a little in and it goes out. So you don't necessarily have as much money as you want, but it's an irritating thing. Like you've got the money, you're getting in money, but something's happening with the money and you find it annoying. Or maybe you're at work and you find a bunch of coworkers annoying and you just want to manifest different things about it. So a thorn is a nuisance, in my opinion. A holdup is oftentimes what causes a person an unintentional delay with getting their manifestation, because there is a reason in the 3D reality that they think that they're not getting what they want. So maybe pause this video after I ask the question, because you need to ask yourself the following questions depending on what you're manifesting. You take what the topic is and then you actually try to make a sentence and then determine what's going on. So if you're to ask yourself, why do you not have your specific person now, or relationships are, like my relationship is, you're going to come up with an answer to that. So think about that briefly, why you don't have what you want, why in the 3D. And I'm not looking for how much you affirm and persist or your mental diet. I'm looking for what is the reason in your 3D reality that either A, you don't have the relationship in the first place. Like, why don't you have what you want or the relationship you want in the 3D? So what is the 3D reason that you think or you're being told? Or how do you see relationships in general? Relationships are, or my relationship is. Answer that question and then come back. If you're manifesting money, why do you think you don't have the amount of money that you want? What is the holdup? Why don't you have the money? And so sometimes when we're manifesting money, it helps to look at maybe not just necessarily just the reason why you don't have the amount of money that you want, what is the holdup, why isn't here, but how you see money, like money is, or getting money is. And so ask yourself those questions for those of you manifesting money. And you can do the same thing for why don't you have the health that you want? Why don't you have the job that you want? Any literal topic, you can use that phrase. Do you follow me? I hope so. So take your topic, ask yourself, what is a holdup? Why don't I have it? Why is it not here in the 3D? See what answer comes to you, because it's probably the biggest reason that you don't actually see what you want. I'm not looking for the little piddly stuff. I'm looking for the why do you honestly think that you don't have it? And then for some topics, just use the name of the topic and then is. Like, health is, money is, jobs are. Essentially, ask yourself those questions, pause the video, and see what you come up with. Because you might either A, find a very dominant assumption that you have about that topic or that person. And so I'm going to use a little bit of demonstrating as to why, if you're not affirming specifically for the thorn or the holdup, that you might not see movement in that area. So I'm going to kind of do what I did in the previous video, where I used the visualizations of the amount of resistance that you have. So in these cups is the amount of resistance that you have to whatever it is that you're manifesting. And you can have a lot, or you could have less, or you could have even a little bit. So if you're affirming, for example, that your relationship is perfect, and you have a thorn of, SP doesn't pay enough attention to you, you can affirm for a while that your relationship is perfect. But if you have a really strong assumption that your relationship is okay, not perfect, and that's this, but you have a really strong assumption that SP just doesn't pay enough attention to you, you would have to affirm that your relationship is perfect an awful lot in order to overcome the resistance of the specific item that you struggle with. Just like if you're affirming that your relationship is perfect and you have a holdup of SP's parents don't approve of me, or we have a different religion, or, SP is really not somebody who just wants to be with me, period. It's like, what do you think it is? A lot of times when I ask people what their holdup is, I hear all different sorts of answers in the phone calls as to what they think their holdup is. When they put the manifestation answers aside, because I don't want to hear those or read those. I want to see, like, why do you honestly think you don't have what you want? And a lot of it is like, SP doesn't trust me, or I think SP's not trustworthy, and so I struggle with that. Or maybe it is, thinking that SP really struggles with vulnerability, or maybe you subscribe to some of the relationship models and you see SP as avoidant, as someone who just really struggles with emotion and being close to somebody. If you identify with any of that, then you would want to have an affirmation specifically for that. And I have a video about thorns, and I have a video about holdups, and I'll make sure, I think I mentioned of linking the thorn video, I'll link the holdup video as well, because you want to have an affirmation that is specific for the issue that you have at hand. If you're affirming that you're in a perfect relationship, but you really have a strong assumption that SP's parents can't stand you and don't approve of your relationship, and that's why SP doesn't want to be with you, I would recommend specifically affirming something to the effect of, SP's family's so happy we're together, or SP's family approves of our relationship, or SP's family accept it. Maybe it's just that they accept it. And so therefore, then your SP would be able to come forth. If you see your SP as avoidant and you're affirming that your relationship's perfect, maybe you want to affirm, and this is the amount of avoidance that you think that they have, that's your resistance. Maybe you want to affirm something like, SP feels completely safe and secure being vulnerable with me, or feels completely comfortable in our relationship. Because usually, avoidancy, it has to do with safety and security of showing emotions and being loved by other people. And so you'd want to have an affirmation just for that. If you're thinking that, it's friends that don't approve, obviously you would affirm that they do. If you think that SP just doesn't want to be with you, that's when you affirm that SP either loves being in the relationship with you, is happy about it, is ecstatic about it. Why? Because if they're happy about being in a relationship with you or happy being your boyfriend, partner, girlfriend, significant other, that is going to imply that they want it and get rid of that assumption. If you're manifesting money and your dominant assumption about money is money's extremely hard to get, but yet you're affirming that you have more money that you could ever spend and you have tons of money, you're not overriding your dominant assumption about money to begin with, that it's hard to get. And so therefore you should affirm, like, getting large amounts of money is so easy for me. I can get tons of money without lifting a finger. You want to have affirmations that imply to you that getting that money is hella easy. If your thorn is that you can't hold on to the money and you feel like you can manifest a ton of money, but it always goes somewhere, I would be like, my wealth doubles by the day. I'm bringing in 50 times more money than I could ever spend. Do you see what I'm saying? You want to have an affirmation that directly negates that. If you work with irritating people and your thorn is people are irritating, all my coworkers love and adore me, or all my coworkers treat me amazingly well, you would want to have an affirmation for your thorn. If your holdup for getting a job is, I never interview well, or employers never pick me, well, now you're going to affirm something like, I'm always the top candidate. I'm always the employer's only choice. Every time I interview, I always get a job offer. So you want to have an affirmation for that. If your health is in the toilet and you think that it's because, you've got health conditions that to you could never get better, then, affirm things like, manifesting health was the easiest thing for me to do. I was easily able to manifest having a body that works perfectly. So you would want to take whatever it is. If it's hard, it's now easy. If you're not chosen, you are the top choice. You're always chosen. If you're not the priority, you are literally the only priority. If you don't feel safe and secure, SP's bending over backwards to make you safe and secure. Whatever that it is, you find an affirmation that is the polar opposite. And that is the big part of what I think a lot of people do not do correctly in the manifestation process. Now, don't get me wrong. You can affirm and persist, and you will eventually get what you want. And I guess I should back up. I don't like necessarily saying doing something wrong, because I don't fully like to look at that way. But you can potentially cause yourself your own unintentional delay if you're just affirming that your relationship is perfect, but you have a really strong assumption that the family doesn't approve of you, or that, SP is a player. Well, now you want to affirm that SP is lovingly committed solely to you and only has eyes for you. Do you see what I'm saying? You want to figure out, why don't I have this? And actually create an affirmation for that problem, for your perceived issue. Or again, if you have a thorn and there's something that bothers you, you want to have an affirmation just for that. Why? So you can get rid of it. Because affirming something is perfect you'd have to affirm that for quite a while in order to overcome a really strong assumption that this person doesn't want to be with you, the family hates you, that, they don't trust you, that they're avoidant, whatever that it is. You'd have to affirm that your relationship is perfect a long time to overcome this shit right here. So hopefully that's clear. As far as when you're manifesting something, before I get to that, affirming directly for your thorn or your holdup speeds things up. Why? Because you're directly chipping away at the area that you have the most resistance, or directly affirming for what you want in an area that you specifically don't have what you want. Now, I want to be clear. When I talk about this stuff, I'm not expecting you to try to dig up every assumption that you possibly have, because you know what? A lot of assumptions that we have that don't work for us are probably half of this. There's such tiny amounts that if we're affirming that we're in this amazing loving relationship, or, SP's made us the happiest we've ever been, or etc., that's going to override a tiny amount. But when you have a big thing that's basically a deal breaker enough that it's either causing you not to have your manifestation or it's causing you a lot of havoc, you want to affirm for that specifically. So now moving on, having said that, I often get asked, why do I get certain parts of manifestations or smaller aspects of it faster? And we talk about levels of resistance. And sometimes that's hard for people to understand. So if you're manifesting your specific person, for example, and you are in no contact and you're manifesting a relationship, but in your 3D reality, you never actually had a full-on relationship with this person. Maybe you had a situationship, maybe you had friends with benefits, or maybe you had a short relationship that didn't fully lead to commitment. Your assumption about your level of resistance, the assumption that you already hold about having like an intimate relationship with this person, you don't have a lot of resistance. Why? Because you've already experienced that. or there wasn't a whole lot of resistance to that in your previous relationship or what you're currently experiencing now. So it can be really easy to get or to maintain certain aspects of what you've already had. Like maybe you got a bunch of contact, maybe you got a bunch of dates, but it was a commitment for you. If you have a ton of resistance to commitment because you guys dated for, or were in a situationship or whatever for 6 months or a year, they never committed. There's someone who never committed to anybody. Maybe you see them as really avoidant, blah, blah, blah. It's going to take you longer to overcome the level of resistance of commitment, especially if they're basically screaming at you in your face, I'm never going to commit to you because I don't ever commit to anybody. A lot of resistance going on there. Created a version of your specific person who doesn't appear to want to commit. So it's going to be a lot easier for you to manifest and override the little bit of resistance you have there versus this, which is also why you want to specifically affirm for whatever the issue is. And that can go for anything. If people are manifesting money and they see manifesting small amounts of money is super easy, guess what? They're going to easily manifest small amounts of money. If they see large amounts of money as difficult, overwhelming, never going to happen, blah, 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 that's the amount of resistance. So that's why, you get some parts of manifestations quicker and what seems to be easier than others. It's the amount of resistance that you actually have to the topic because you have to affirm and persist a lot more for this than you do in order to obtain something that you have this amount of resistance to. And that can go for all aspects, all areas. So if you are looking at what you're manifesting or you are looking at your life and you're like, why don't I have these things? Or why do I only get part of it? Like not necessarily talking about a partial manifestation or birds before land, but it's like, why do I only get a certain amount or only certain aspects, but it seems to be a struggle to get the rest or the full, total thing. Like I'm getting money, but I'm not getting a large amount of money. Or, and partial manifestations is a whole nother topic. And sometimes when we manifest something in, it can be a partial manifestation, but I'm talking like on the whole, like you're manifesting your SP, you can manifest, getting a relationship with someone as far as going on dates and having a low level of commitment, but maybe you have a little exclusivity, but as far as getting like engaged or getting married, you can't seem to achieve that. Or with your health, you feel a little bit better, but you just can't seem to overcome and feel great or overcome a health issue. Or, that's how it appears in a 3D. I'm obviously using some 3D language. Or, you can manifest a job, but it just doesn't seem to be like the exact type of jobs that you want, or the jobs that pay you certain levels of money, or getting a job at a certain level in a company. So we can have more resistance to things that we perceive as more difficult or that we have struggled to obtain when we were spiritually asleep, or that maybe we just have not experienced, but we're able to get these things faster that we've had some sort of experience, whether it be with that person or within whatever that manifestation is, whatever the realm is, whether it's money, health, career, getting a property, moving into a place, etc. Your 3D reality is going to unfold based on your dominant thoughts and assumptions. And if your dominant thought and or assumption on a topic is, I can get this, but I can't get that, or, this is easy for me to get and that's not, that's how it's going to seem to be to you. And so in order to go from I easily get to, I'm easily getting this to easily getting also this, you'd have to recognize that you need to affirm and persist more for this, one, and number two, directly for it if it's something that you're seeing as a holdup specifically. So I could make this video be like literally 3 hours long explaining all the different ways that this interacts, but I'm hoping that this video at the end of the day is going to make some sense and help illustrate to you why, affirming a perfect relationship when you're really seeing the parents as a barrier or trust or security or etc. as an issue, why for affirming a perfect relationship could take much longer in order to achieve the whole package that you want when you're dealing with this, as well as why maybe when you're manifesting something, it seems like you get one aspect of it quickly while the other one's taken a long time. It usually has to do with the level of resistance and whether you are specifically affirming for that aspect of your manifestation or not. So anyway, I always have notes. Get the life that you want. Make sure that you're affirming for what you want and affirming to override the dominant thought or assumption that you hold somewhere that doesn't truly work for you. And again, don't go digging. It's not a treasure hunt. But usually if you're thinking, why don't I truly have this in the 3D? Something's going to pop in your head. And if something doesn't, what are you being told? What are you being told by people about that manifestation? Are you hearing a repetitive theme of, I don't want to be with you, or I never commit, or, I struggle to feel secure in relationships, or I don't trust you, or we're not the same religion. Like, what are you hearing? Or, you just don't interview well, you don't present well, your resume sucks. What are you hearing? Money's difficult to get, money's difficult to keep. You're not someone who's ever going to have any money. We hear repetitive things, whether we're being told by the person that we're manifesting something from, or whether it is a repetitive theme that we hear in our 3D reality that really strongly resonates with us. So do some self-reflection and figure out what is my big holdup here? Because usually there's, for many people who are struggling, one big item. And when that light bulb goes off and they start actually affirming something that implies to them that that is no longer a problem, that problem is solved, they see themselves getting their shit rapidly. Why? Because they're dealing directly with the area that they have the most resistance to for that manifestation, instead of just being like, my relationship is perfect, or, I got lots of money. Well, okay, if you see it as difficult, see yourself as losing it, see the person as not wanting to commit, which do you think is going to get you your stuff the fastest? Affirming for what your direct issue is, your direct holdup and or thorn, or going with something that's general, that's not really touching the very basis of your issue in the first place. So drop any comments, questions, concerns below, because I love to check them out. And as usual, I'll talk to you later. Bye.